Welcome to the ENCORE Effect, the podcast where music takes center stage in life's second act. Brought to you by ENCORE Creativity, America's largest choral organization for adults 55 and older. This inspiring series celebrates the transformative power of music, community, and creativity in the later years of life. Each episode will share moving personal stories from ENCORE singers across the country and dive into fascinating conversations with experts in neuroscience, gerontology, and the arts. Discover how choral singing is boosting brain health, improving well-being, and lighting up the lives of thousands of older adults nationwide. From retirees finding their voice for the first time, to the science behind why doctors are prescribing music for the mind, the ENCORE Effect proves that creativity is endless. Join us and let the music move you.
Welcome back to the ENCORE Effect, transforming lives through song. I'm Joshua Vickery, your host and the CEO of ENCORE. And today I am so very excited to have a wonderful guest who is no stranger to music and to working with aging and in health. I'm so excited to be having a conversation with Suzanne LaFollette-Black today. Suzanne is a gerontologist with over 40 years of experience in aging services, including leadership roles at AARP in Georgia and North Carolina. She helped found the ENCORE Sentimental Journey Singers of Cape Fear, a specialized chorus for caregivers and their loved ones with early dementia. A recent recipient of the 2025 NCAOA Distinguished Service in Aging Award, Suzanne is passionate about the intersection of music and aging. She currently sings in 2 choral groups and serves on her church's Music and Fine Arts Committee. Originally from Window Rock, Arizona, on the Navajo Nation, she's a grandmother who loves spending time with her grandkids and traveling. Even in retirement, Suzanne remains deeply involved in her community, volunteering with everything from disaster preparedness to caregiver support programs. She brings both professional expertise and personal passion to our conversation today about music's role in caregiving and community. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thanks, Joshua. It's so good to be here. Thank you.
It's so nice to have you in the podcast. You know, we were chatting before we got on, and we were talking about what a cool grandma you are because you took your granddaughter to see Taylor Swift.
Yes, in Vancouver. The last concert, the Eras Tour. Yes.
And
great.
You love the Foo Fighters.
I do. I like David Grohl. But I also like Justin Timberlake. I like all music. You know, all music's so important.
How has music been a part of your life, and why do you think it's important to pass it along to people that you love, like your grandkids?
You know, Joshua, when I think about it, music's always been in my life. My grandmother was a piano teacher, as well as a 3rd grade teacher. She was very adamant about me learning how to play the piano. I remember when I was 6 years old, I was expecting one of those Schroeder pianos, something I could just ding, ding, ding on it. And that morning I had a real Kanabi console piano. And I was like, whoa. And that was kind of the beginning of everything. And I also collect music boxes. I think it's very important to instill music in my grandchildren. I have one with perfect pitch. And so, I'm after her, you can imagine that. But the others, I get a chance to sing to them at night. We sing together. The first thing they do when they come to visit Grammy's house is they run to the grand piano. and I love it. Of course, I have to make sure their hands are washed. But, it's really fantastic. And I've got really kind of like an orchestra band here. So we get out the instruments and play. And I just want to make sure all of my kids, I made sure that they learned how to read music.
It's beautiful. And how do you think music has enhanced the relationships in your life? I mean, you were talking here about your family, but as you think about your journey, where have been those pivotal moments where people have come in and out of your lives and music was the thing that brought you together?
I've been always very fortunate with role models in music. And I think about the opportunities of my choral and band director on the reservation, having those experiences, actually doing things on a state level, having that competition of the auditioning. Clarinet was my instrument, and clarinet actually paid my way through college. And I was not a music major. I was a pre-veterinarian music minor. But I think of my director that was at Northern Arizona University. And, I always played in high-end all-state things. And so I had that experience with lifelong relationships, also in choral. I think of ENCORE, and I have the best friends coming out of ENCORE. I'm just saying, it's just so wonderful. And we all have that commonality. We love music. We just love it. And what a great opportunity to have that, right?
Your music to my ears here, because you were pre-vet. So that in my mind means dogs. And you love the clarinet, which is music. Those are two like my favorite things in the world, Suzanne. I can talk about dogs and music all day long.
Me too. I bet Huckleberry's. What's his favorite?
Yeah, he is. He likes music too. I think he likes listening with his dad around music. So as you think about aging, whether it's you've been working in the aging sphere for many years, or us as individuals as we age, how do you think music helps us? How do you think it enhances our lives? We know what the science and the data tells us, right? But personally, what do you see as you've worked in this sphere for many years?
It's funny. When I was working on my graduate degree, we had to pick out a dissertation, and what I wrote was music therapy and the institutionalized elderly, because what I could see is how music brought people back, brought them back to a good time, a good memory, because music is very hardwired in our brain, and brain health and music is so crucial. I'm so excited. I just read something the other day that now physicians are actually prescribing music. People. I mean, they're actually writing a prescription for it because they see the benefits of it. And so look what we've got with ENCORE. We are providing folks with all these great benefits to not only develop great friendships, but also learn new music, have some challenges, and then come together as a group and have the sense of community and collaboration. It's just amazing.
Yeah, social prescribing is something that's really taking off. It started out in Europe and in London, and it's moving its way over here. And I was just speaking to a singer recently who was diagnosed with lung cancer, and so unfortunate. But when she asked her doctor, what should I be doing right now? What's the best thing for my lungs? And that doctor said, go and join a choir. And she did. She came and she joined an ensemble at Encore Creativity. And I just think we need more doctors, Suzanne, telling patients to go and sing in a choir, go experience the arts, because we know that it's good for us.
We do. And it's an emotional connection that you get almost automatically when you're in a group like that, or if you're playing in an orchestra. I mean, it's all teamwork. And so you depend on one another, but you want to be the best possible. And if you have that magic conductor, you'll do anything for them, anything. And so, it's that self-discovery that we learn about ourselves. I mean, I'm thinking about the challenges. Golly, Joshua, I think I had to learn 3 languages in ENCORE, and learn the pronunciation. I actually, to my choir director at church, and I said, you have to help me with this Italian, okay? I don't want to mess this up. And so I had Italian lessons. Who knew, right? But it just made me a better person and a better singer and a better team player.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of our mission, that lifelong learning piece. And it's so good for our brains. It's like, food for our brains, learning about music. And I hear that from singers all the time about how learning to read music or learning a different language or all of those things help us, help our brain. So this might be a hard question, and it's totally putting you on the spot in this podcast. But is there a time where you felt maybe stressed, or there was a hard time in your life and music was something that was the bridge that helped get you to the other side of that?
Yes, many times, actually. I think Ralph Vaughan Williams' Fantasia is one of my favorites.
Mm.
So I play the radio 24/7 on a certain station. It's either going to be classical. Well, it's two stations, either classical in one room, and the other is the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, that type of thing, and the oldies type of thing. And, when you hear certain music, it goes to the core. It touches you.
Mm.
I can be sitting listening to an orchestra, pictures of an exhibition, for instance. I have tears just coming down because it just brings me such joy.
Mm.
Touches you to the soul. So when my husband was diagnosed with dementia, he loved music, but I was really surprised I married somebody that didn't read music. I was like, what am I thinking here? But he could learn, he could listen, and he could carry a tune. So that was important. I would never marry somebody who was quarter tone. But it was just really wonderful that we could sing together. That music, remembered, and that was hardwired in his brain. And we'd go to concerts and things, and he would enjoy it so much. Mm. He could converse, he could sing, he could remember. And that's why Encore is so important to me.
Mm. I love that, Suzanne. Thank you for sharing your heart about that. And I think, the emotion that just welled up in your soul when you talked about that is such the power of what we see in our programs, especially things like Sentimental Journey Singers and Melody Makers, where those memories and those emotions are linked to music. They are hand in hand. And so someone who might come into a rehearsal and not having a great day and may not even, remember why they're in that space, but they hear something from their childhood or high school or when they got married or when their kids graduated, and they will lift their head and sing every word from memory. And
absolutely,
it's powerful. It really, really is.
It is. Or if you don't remember the words, it could be like Saturday Night Live skit where you're singing Beatles songs, you remember the words, and you get to a certain point and you're all going, la, 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 la.
La, 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 yeah.
At least you're on the same tune, right?
Yeah, you
want to remember the words.
And you believe in this so much because of the work that you've done in caregiving yourself, but then, really serving other caregivers, that those moments of emotion attached to music are so powerful for the person who, might have some type of cognitive change, but it's just as powerful for the caregiver because they get to see a glimpse of their loved one. And there's just I believe there's a powerful connection in those moments that music facilitates.
I totally agree with that. I purchased a clock that plays music 5 minutes before the top of the hour, and it's still running. Jim's been gone 3 years, but I have it here, and I'm surprised it hasn't gone off yet. It will go off soon with you. But people go, "Is that Christmas music? What am I hearing here?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "That's my reminder of Jim," because that was his clock. And then it would kick in, and then he knew what time it was, and he also knew the music. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself through music? As something that a song that you sung in a choir or lyrics that imprinted on your heart, was there something that helped you become who you are through a musical experience?
To me, music is everything. Music is life. They always hear that cliche that music is a universal language. It is. You can go anywhere in the world, and you all have that commonality of listening and hearing this beautiful music that we can hear and experience. Music's just in my DNA. That's just the way it is. If you came to my house, you go, "Oh my Lord, she likes music." But no, it's just crucial. That's why I feel it's so important to make sure that my grandchildren, for instance, and others have a chance to hear other music. It's also your cultural identity. And the reason why I bring that up is being part Indigenous. It really brings a social, but it also brings that sense of belonging. And when I went back for my mini reunion on the reservation, we had certain music that came on and what have you, which was Navajo. And chanting and what have you. And all of us were chanting and doing and dancing. And I mean, it was just amazing. And I thought, gosh, I remember all this stuff about that. But yeah, hope that answers your question.
It totally does. And I love how you started the answer with music is my life.
It is.
It is. You know,
It is.
can you imagine life without music? I mean, it's just one of those things. And I think COVID for me really brought that out even more. It's like when I was isolated from human connection, it was the arts for me that really kept me going, whether it was music or whether it was movies or it was reading books, or it was that kind of thing that really kept my spirit going.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
So let's just change a little bit here. You know, Encore, our mission is to serve older adults and to empower them to find community through the joy of choral singing and through the joy of music. I love that mission. And, you know, I think part of that is that empowerment piece for older adults and to give them that space. What do you think in your years of working in aging? What do you think society sometimes does not give older adults the credit they're due? What do you think about society needs to change to where older adults are viewed not as getting older but really as the prime of life?
Exactly. Starting that extra chapter. Some people call it the second chapter. Some people call it the third chapter. Some people call it super agers who are really getting involved in different things. But, you know, age is only a number. I really believe that. I used to have a motto. It's not how old you are, but how you are old. And so how do you define old, you know, this? And, you know, everybody has experiences that are common in some way. And if it's grief, if it's celebration of a birth, you know, if it's marriage, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
You know, whatever it is, you know, but it's just, you know, there's something there that you can always connect with people. And it motivates us to really translate what our feelings are of our memories, but also creating new memories. You know, this is exciting time. I'm getting a chance to do stuff I've always wanted to do. You know, I always wanted to learn how to play the harp. And when I moved to Wilmington, that was one of the first things I seeked out. Now I need to get back into it. Or my husband knew I loved Chris Thile with his Mandarin music. And he got me one year. Have I learned to play it? No, because Chris Thile's a lot better than I am, and I got frustration. But you know, I should do that as a memory. But you know, there's just certain musicians and people like yourself that just inspire us, and I want to thank you for that.
I love that. So it just kind of, in addition to that, if you could tell someone who's hesitant about trying music or the arts later in life, just one thing, what would it be?
One thing. Give it a shot. Try it. You know, new experience is the best. And it also helps our brain health as well, no matter what that experience is. If it's cruising and seeing different places, or if it's singing with a group, or even in the radio, you know, in the car, just singing something, but getting involved with others. You know, if we look at the isolation factor, so many people, as you mentioned with COVID, became very isolated, and music got people through, or the arts, like you said. So, you know, here's an opportunity that we need to combat isolation. And one way of doing that is becoming social and being involved in a group such as ENCORE.
You know, I've heard so many singers who've said, I've never sung in a choir before. I love to sing, but I've never sung in a choir before. And now they just can't get enough. They just love it. Really, it's like their whole world.
But you make it fun. You know, I think about when we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We had a blast. Yeah. That was awesome. And here I saw somebody that can't sing. She says she can't. She wouldn't sing, but she did come to listen from graduate school. I hadn't seen her since graduate school. She was motivated because of rock and roll. She loved rock and roll. And she came and she thought that experience was fabulous. She even went to Chautauqua last year. So you started a new fan, I'll put it that way. But you make it fun. And travel and music, what a great combination.
So, Suzanne, you get to experience Encore in so many levels. You're a singer yourself with Encore. You helped found a program. You're a donor. You're a board member. You get to see it from so many different angles. Why do you think Encore and its mission and the effect that it has on so many lives is really important?
Because it gives folks the opportunity to be involved in something that has purpose. And when I say purpose, it's purpose of yourself, of that self-discovery, that emotional connection, artistic expression, also that community and togetherness that you get from something like this. And Encore provides that. And it's not only through the repertoire of what you give, but it's also through the other opportunities that you provide. And then those friendships. Awesome.
I love that. So, Suzanne, I can't believe our time is already up. We could talk for hours about life and about Encore and about music and about dogs. But before we go, the song that is my life song, right? If I were to take a song and the title of a song, or what would that life song be?
Okay, so something that would be encompassing would be The Sound of Music. That would encompass everything. I love that whole thing with the music, got everything of it. But just think, if we didn't have The Sound of Music, what would we have? You know, a lot of times people say to me, if you only had an opportunity to have one sense, touch or taste or eyesight or hearing, or, you know, what would you have? And I said, hearing. Music.
The sound of music. That is a perfect answer. The sound of music. Suzanne, thank you for your support of Encore.
You're so very welcome.
For your years of work in music and aging, and I'm excited about the memories we're going to continue to make together. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joshua. Take care.
My pleasure. Friends, we'll see you next time on the Encore Effect, transforming lives through song.